What's up, PGF Nation? We are back. We've got our top 5 running backs rankings in the NFL draft. I'm Brad Fowler. He's Alex Higdon. And yeah, guys, this one's going to ruffle some feathers because I'm telling you right now, there is a guy that everybody loves in this running back group that barely cracked my top 5. I can't wait to hear Alex's top 5. We're going to dive into it. But before we get there, Alex, we had some news come down the pipe here really right before we got ready to record this. Today, Jaylen Waddle gets traded to the Denver Broncos. This is a pretty big move. Denver trades its first-round pick in this draft and a third-round pick to acquire Jaylen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins. It's an intriguing move because, Waddle's a big-time player. It seems like they're giving up a lot, but I'm curious to get your thoughts here, Alex. I actually like this move for both teams. Miami is clearly in a rebuild. They're trying to accumulate draft picks, so I understand that from their side. And Denver has what it feels like is a Super Bowl contending team. Obviously, they came up just short of making it to the Super Bowl this last season. They could really use some more juice on the outside for their young quarterback. I don't hate this move by either team. No hot take here. I think it actually makes a lot of sense for both teams. What do you think?
So I'll say this. If he gets 1,200 to 1,300 yards and 8 to 10 touchdowns, everything I'm about to say goes out the window. But a first-round pick for him, for what? He hasn't had 1,000 yards since 2023. It is now 2026. So he has not been over 1,000 yards. He has 744 hit the fourth year. He had 910. He had 910 last year. Let's just say if he plays 17 games, he gets 1,000. Maybe he gets 1,006 touchdowns. And the year before that, 2 touchdowns. So he hasn't had 1,000 yards since 2023, and it was only 1,014 and 4 touchdowns. So that's worth a first-round pick? I don't think so. Now, if you want to tell me a second round pick and a 5th round pick, then I could say okay. But no, he had 744 and 2 and 910 and 6, and he hasn't had 1,000 yards since 23. I'm not giving up a first round pick for that, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to take a receiver with that first round pick. It could be somebody to replace John Franklin Myers, who they lost in free agency. Or it could have been an offensive line. It could have been something else that who knows what happens in the draft. I think you said 4th or 5th best receiver wouldn't be there, but one of those guys would be there because I think Omar Cooper is going to slide up into the top 3 or top 4 guys taken. So I think Zachariah, I forgot the receiver's name from Georgia. I can't think of his name.
Zachariah Branch.
Thank you, Zachariah. I think Zachariah Branch or Casey Consent, one of those 4 to 5 receivers are going to slip to the second round. And they're all not too far apart from each other. So one of those guys would be there. But alas, they made the trade. And, if Jaylen Waddle comes up with what I said, the 12 to 1,300, 8 to 10 touchdowns, then it'll be all from you. It'll be all a mute discussion.
So if I look at the 30th pick thinking that they're looking at receiver, which to your point, they could target a different position there. But since they were clearly needing to upgrade receiver, they felt like that was a priority for this team. My point, I think, is that I don't think the 30th pick gets you one of those top receivers. And I certainly don't think it gets you a player on Jaylen Waddle's level. I don't think Casey Concepcion or Zachariah Branch, even Omar Cooper.
No, I don't think they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
like Omar Cooper.
I don't think they're on this level.
Yeah. Like I like those guys, but those are clearly like second tier guys. I don't think any of the top 3 guys are there at 30. It'd be one thing if you were picking the top 15 and you could look at a guy like a Mekhi Lemon, a guy like, if you're in that range, maybe. I just don't think any of those top guys are there. So from that standpoint, I get it. It does seem kind of steep, but when it's the 30th pick, I appreciate a team that's trying to push its chips into the middle. And you know me, Alex, I'm a draft guy through and through, and I think draft picks are highly valuable. And a lot of times teams trade them away, and it's not worth getting rid of them for the guys they pick up. In this regard, I don't hate it. I do think Jaylen Waddle will fit the offense. He's a guy who's a precise route runner that I think definitely fits Sean Payton's offense and what Bo Nix does at quarterback. I expect him to have a good year in Denver. Is he an 1,100-yard guy to your point? I don't know, but I do think he's an impact guy. I appreciate the aggressive nature for a team that's trying to get over the hump here and feels like it's in this championship window. For Miami, I definitely like it. This is a team that brings in a new GM that has basically came out and said free agency is trash and it's all about the draft. I mean, I don't know if you heard his quotes about how terrible free agency is and how building through the draft is everything, but clearly that's what they want to do. They want to get younger. They want to build draft capital. They want to reshape this team with their new head coach. And so I like it for Miami. I actually like it for Denver. It's one of the rare trades that I don't think either team is a clear winner, so to speak. I think it's a good move by both. Before our last episode, some other news broke a couple days ago. We didn't get a chance to talk about it here. My favorite NFL quarterback, Kyler Murray, ends up in Minnesota. This was kind of the worst kept secret in the NFL. This was a lot of speculation that he was going to sign with Minnesota. It made a lot of sense. What's your thoughts here? I don't know if we need to do a deep dive on it, but what's your thoughts on Kyler Murray signing with the Vikings here on basically a one-year prove-it deal?
Well, the first thing I say is I actually like it for Kyler. Now, I like Kyler. I just think he's too short. Right? Like if Kyler was 6 feet, let's just say at least 6 feet, 5'11", 6 feet, we'd probably be he probably still would be at the Cardinals actually. But his height is the issue. But I think he throws the ball great. Now, the off the field stuff and him paying attention and knowing what he has to do, I think was an issue in Arizona. Here in Minnesota, a team that I personally think is a quarterback away from at least being in the playoffs. We're not talking about Super Bowl, at least being in the playoffs. I think that's there. Kevin O'Connell, I think with a curator of the offense like him, with a guy like Kyler Murray, this is going to be his best shot to try and hang on for this. And on the other hand, I think it's over for J.J. McCarthy. I didn't like him to begin with. I didn't think he was a first-round pick coming out. And so I think it's over for JJ. I think it's over for JJ McCarthy, and I think Kyler Murray is going to at least get them to 9-8. And that's not playoffs, but I think he'll get them to 9.
I think it's over for JJ in Minnesota. I think being
yeah.
In Minnesota, it's clearly over for him. You don't bring in a guy like Kyler if you're trying to move on and give JJ another chance here. But he's a young guy who clearly does still have some upside. So someone is going to take a flyer on him. He's going to end up in somebody's camp next season or before the trade deadline. Something will happen where he'll end up on a team where he at least gets a shot to compete for a backup job. And maybe that's what's best for J.J. McCarthy. Let's be honest, that he was a developmental guy who really wasn't ready to be thrown into a starting position, let alone on a team.
Especially that one. Yeah.
Yeah, a team with big expectations. So like they didn't have the patience to bring in JJ and let him develop. And I understand why. They've got a team that they feel like is good enough to win now. So it was never really a good fit for a developmental quarterback to begin with. But if he can develop in the background with a McVay, a Shanahan, one of these guys who we know really does a great job developing quarterbacks, who knows? Maybe he's the next redemption story, a la Sam Darnold in a few years, and we look back and say, wow, look at the leaps this guy made. Who knows? But he's certainly going to get a chance somewhere else. As far as Kyler Murray, obviously I joked there a minute ago about Kyler being my favorite quarterback because he's certainly not. I don't know if anybody trashes him more than I do. And look, I'm going to push back on this. It has way more to do with him just being short. He's not a good quarterback. Is he short, and has that always been an issue? Absolutely. But the guy, there's all kinds of stories about work ethic, leadership, attitude. It's way more than just being short. And I think there's a reason that his market wasn't very robust. I don't think there was a whole lot of landing spots for Kyler Murray for a reason. I think that he's viewed as a pretty toxic personality in NFL locker rooms. This is a big opportunity for him. Forget big. It's a huge opportunity for him to reshape his image going forward, because if this goes poorly in Minnesota, this might be his last chance at being a starter, which is hard to believe for a guy who's still pretty young. But I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of cracks at this if this goes poorly, because this is a perfect opportunity. When you're talking about elite playmakers, you're talking about an elite offensive mind, this has to work for Kyler Murray. Because if this goes off the rails, and look, I don't think this is going to work. I think it's a weird fit. I don't think he's a good fit for KOC's offense personally. And this is really going to show us, A, how much does Kyler want this? How much drive does he have to reestablish himself as a quarterback in this league? And how good is Kevin O'Connell as far as being a quarterback whisperer? Because he kind of gets labeled this quarterback guru when, we've got stories like Sam Darnold, but he also couldn't elevate J.J. McCarthy. So how good is he at developing quarterbacks? I don't know. We're going to find out a lot about Kevin O'Connell as a coach, and we're going to find out a lot about Kyler, the quarterback, next season. It's definitely going to be fascinating to watch. That is for sure. But Alex, free agency is behind us for the most part. Obviously, there's still some trickling movement, but all the big names are pretty much wrapped up. Back to the NFL draft, which means back to our rankings here. So we're going to shift gears here, get into these running backs. This is a class, Alex. Last year, if you remember, we had one of the deepest, most talented running back classes we've had in a long time. So I kind of expected this running back class to not be as talented as the one that we just had. However, I think this group is being a little undervalued. I think this is a decent group, Alex. Like everyone knows Jeremiah Love is RB1. No shock. He's going to be RB1 here on our list too. I'm excited to hear who you have behind him because there's a lot of different opinions on these next group of guys, the second tier of guys. I don't think it's as bad a group as people are making it out to be, Alex. What did you think when you started watching the tape?
I think it's as bad as a group. I think it is as bad a group as people are talking about. And again, We're not talking about what they are in the NFL. We're talking about prior to them entering the league.
Projection.
The names, right, the projection. So like number 2, because we know we all know about Jeremiah Love, so we know what he is. So my number 2 running back is Jadarian Price, the actual partner to Jeremiah Love. I think he only had 223 carries, I think, in his entire career at Notre Dame because he was always a backup. But I think he can be another guy that steps in and can be a starter, similar to Josh Jacobs, who was a guy that did not have a lot of carries, that where Damian Harris was the leader at Alabama. He came in behind Damian Harris and still was a first round pick. I think Jadarian Price will be a nice second round, maybe late second round, early third round, but a second round pick for a team to pick up.
Like I said, Jeremiah Love's RB1. Pretty obvious choice here for both of us. We're not going to, shock anybody with any hot takes and put somebody else there. He's the clear-cut guy. But I really did take some time to go and watch a lot of tape on him because I really wanted to break down his tape and really get a feel for just how good is this guy as far as being compared. Because let's face it, it's not every day that you get a guy who's probably going to go in the top 5, almost guaranteed to go in the top 10 in a draft class at running back. It's actually fairly rare. So you're talking about a guy that is entering that group of Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey.
Actually, no, he's not Saquon Barkley. He's none of those guys. He's not Saquon Barkley. He's not even close to Saquon Barkley. He's getting chosen 5th because this is not a superstar draft. We all have starters draft. So there's not a Mike. Well, I don't want to say Micah, but there's not a Joe Burrow. There's not one of those. There's not those guys because after Fernando Mendoza, it's kind of we don't know who's going. 2 through the rest of the draft, we don't know who's going. We could say, this person, that, but we actually don't know. He's being pushed up because this draft is full of starters, not superstars. He's not a superstar. Now he could come out and play like one, but he's not better than Saquon. He's not better than the guy that went to the Jaguars. He's not better than Christian McCaffrey. He's not better than any of those guys. He's not better than Bijan Robinson either. He would go lower if we were to put those running backs there. So if we're looking at that and then say he's not a superstar, he's just going that high because the draft is just full of stars. There's no superstar.
Well, no, I agree with you there. I wasn't putting him in that group. I'm saying he's going to get drafted like those guys did. 5, right. A Zeke Elliott, a Christian McCaffrey, a Saquon Barkley, a Bijan Robinson. It's pretty rare when we see a guy get drafted in that range, right? It's usually one of those types, to your point. It's one of those types of prospects. I don't think he's on that level either. I think he's a very good prospect. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a very good prospect, but I think you're right. In a class with a lot of good, not great, he is getting elevated. But I do like his tape, man. I mean, I think his footwork is excellent. I love the contact balance. I think he has really high-level acceleration / change of direction ability, very good start-stop. And the thing I really like about him, because if you are going to take, in this modern era, if you're going to take a guy that high, he better be more than just a guy that runs between the tackles. And this is a guy who is an absolute true 3-down skill set running back. Excellent out of the backfield, excellent being able to run routes. He's a sharp, clean route runner. He can actually line up in the slot, run wide receiver routes, bounces off of tacklers, creates chunk plays. He's explosive. He's versatile. Like, I'm with you. He's not on the level of those guys we mentioned, even though he's going to get drafted in the same range. But I think he's a really, really good player. And I started really thinking about this a lot. My comp for Jeremiah Love is Reggie Bush. And I think Reggie Bush, if he was being drafted in this era, would have had a much better NFL career. I think Reggie was kind of ahead of his time. If you think about Reggie coming out, like, Reggie's arguably the greatest college football player of all time, right? Like, he's in that discussion. He was that good. Obviously, he didn't really live up to it in the pros. He just kind of became an average NFL player when a lot of people thought he'd be a Hall of Fame level player. But as far as, I'm talking more of like the type of player that I see, not a big, overly physical guy, but just quick, shifty, big home run hitter type. I see flashes of Reggie Bush. I also see flashes of Alvin Kamara. He kind of reminds me of those are kind of the comps I have for him. Kind of an Alvin Kamara, Reggie Bush type of back. Has some physicality to his game, but it's more about speed and burst than it is about being physical. And like I said, very good out of the backfield. Just like Kamara and Bush, very good hands and is a dynamic threat catching the ball as well. I think he's a really good player, but I think you're right. Probably a little overhyped in a down class and in a class that really doesn't have a bunch of other running backs. We might not see another back go off the board until round 3. My number 2 running back, Alex, is Mike Washington out of Arkansas. And
he's my number 3. Yep.
Yeah, this is a guy, we talked about him a few times now. He is crushing the pre-draft process. And he's a guy that has continued to make me go back and look at tape after the Senior Bowl and after the Combine. I had to go back and watch more and more tape of this guy because, man, I'm starting to like more and more that I watch. You're talking about a guy with a rare size-speed combination, 223, big, physical, powerful, high motor, has really elite top-end speed. We saw that at the Combine. Downhill, kind of a punishing style, runs behind his pads. He has really quick jump cuts. His start-stop is, I think it's pretty rare for a guy his size, Alex. And like I said, when I talk about the 3 things, I say it all the time. You guys have all heard it. Tape, check. Senior Bowl, check. Combine, check. I really think this guy is NFL ready. I think he's going to be a surprisingly good player right out of the gates for somebody. Quick shout out to our friends at props.cash, the best player prop research tool in the game. Props.cash lets you scan thousands of props across sports books to quickly spot the highest value opportunities. You get real-time injury and lineup intel, advanced filters to find exactly what you're looking for, and even correlated player props so you can see what tends to hit when a player goes over their line. They cover NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college football, college basketball, and the WNBA. It's legit next level prep. If you're serious about betting smarter, go to props.cash and use code PGF25 for 25% off your first month. That's code PGF25 for 25% off your first month at props.cash. The official ticketing app of Pint Glass Football is now SeatGeek. I can't recommend them enough, guys. I've been using SeatGeek for years. You want to go to a game this season? SeatGeek is here to take the confusion out of buying tickets, making sure you get the best seats at the best prices. With SeatGeek, you'll never have to worry about overpaying for tickets again. How? They put a 0 to 10 score on each ticket, so you know you're getting a good deal. But here's the real game changer. You can get $20 off your first ticket purchase with the code PGFPOD. That's right, $20 off with code PGFPOD. This season, make every game day epic with SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app and remember to enter the code PGFPOD to grab your $20 discount.
And I have him number 3, so we can talk about him really quick. And I do like him a lot. The reason I have him behind Jadarian Price is because I think I think what Jadarian Price showed, God, I can't remember the game, but what he showed and him not having that many carries, but what he was behind Jeremiah Love just means more to the league, means more to NFL than what Mike Washington does. And I think Mike Washington, he ran a 4.31. I think he ran a 4.31 if I'm not mistaken, 4.32.
Yeah.
But either way, he ran a 4.3 something.
Fast.
Right. And then his size. And then I think where people are going to stop at, he doesn't catch the ball out the backfield a lot. So I think that Jadarian Price does, and I think that's why I have Jadarian Price 2 over Mike Washington.
No, and I get that. And I mentioned that just a minute ago with Jeremiah Love. It's a big value thing in today's NFL. My number 3 guy, Alex, is Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska.
My number 4 guy. Okay.
Yeah, and I like this guy.
Well, my number 5 guy.
Number 5? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I assumed he would make your list. Really good player. One of my favorite evaluations in this class. I think, so to your point about receiving, didn't have big receiving numbers, but I think that he showed flashes of a guy who has some upside as a receiving back. We did see him take some snaps in the slot and out wide, which I think really showed some versatility. He's got quick feet. Only thing that drags him down a little bit, and it's not even a big deal, but the 4.56, I was hoping for a better 40 time. It's sufficient, right? He's fast enough. I just wish he had a little more top end speed, but I love his north-south physical running style. Doesn't waste any steps, doesn't dance around in the hole. He's a decisive runner, hits the hole and gets downhill in a hurry. Very consistent production. I think he's an explosive all-purpose back that, like we've been talking about, I think he's a guy that you're not going to have to sub out in third down. Probably a day 3 guy, probably more of a rotational guy, but I think he's a player that could really outplay his draft slot in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's possible that he could. You know what? It depends on let's just see where he gets drafted. Let's see who drafts him, because if he gets drafted in Denver, he's not going to have that because they don't run the ball. My stake of claim against Sean Payton, but I'll wait to see where he gets drafted. But I do like him. I have him number 5 because I have Kaytron Allen from Penn State at number 4.
Okay.
And I like him, and I'll mention Nick Singleton here, but he got hurt. But that is a guy that I like as well. But Kaytron Allen came in for Nick Singleton after he got hurt, and just ran the Penn State offense the best that he could. At least if you talk about last year, last year's not really the year to talk about, but he ran the ball the way you would expect a Penn State running back to run the ball when he got his opportunity.
I like Kaytron Allen, a guy that is really just outside my top 5. Really good player. I actually like his teammate better. I have Nicholas Singleton number 4, Alex, and they're not far away from each other in my rankings. I just like the blend of size, speed, and explosiveness that I see from Nicholas Singleton. I think he has some absolutely legit traits in 4.39 speed, home run hitter ability, gets to that top speed in a hurry. I mean, his 0 to 60 is outstanding. I love his attitude. He's a guy who just runs angry. He's a tough goal line runner, a physical runner when he needs to be. Really, really good in pass protection versus the blitz. And I know that's not a sexy thing to talk about with running backs, but I'll tell you what, coaches, they love that because he's a guy that can get in there and protect the quarterback on passing downs, takes care of the football, 0 fumbles his senior year. I really like this guy. If you go back, it's because you mentioned the Penn State, and we've talked a lot about it during this draft process. Penn State and Clemson and LSU are 3 programs going into the year that we all thought were going to be like legit national championship type contenders. And all 3 of them, their seasons derailed. And a lot of their top prospects had kind of down years. And now it's made the evaluation process kind of tricky for these guys because his 2024 tape for Singleton is outstanding. I mean, he looks like an absolute first round pick. 2025 tape, everything at Penn State, like I said, falls apart, doesn't really have the same level of play, didn't fully test at the combine. So that is a concern. There's some medical checks some things that I think are going to be important for him. But if we're talking about just betting on the traits and going off of his best tape, I think he's a guy who could really be a good player at the next level. If you're noticing something here, it goes back to my intro. The name that everybody loves that I'm down on is Jadarian Price. Jadarian Price just barely cracks my top 5, Alex, and he squeaks in at number 5. Not that I don't like this kid. I do. I think he's being really overrated because every list I see is Jadarian Price number 2. Everybody's got him number 2. I think he's a good player. The one thing about Jadarian Price, I don't see any special. I don't see anything special about Jadarian Price. I think he's a scheme fit guy. I think now he has great vision. I think he has exceptional patience, which I love when I watch his tape. He's a guy who lets his blocks develop. I think he has a very natural feel for the position as far as finding cutback lanes because he's a one-cut runner, not going to dance around, really strong contact balance. He has good hands, clean route runner, quick acceleration, doesn't have elite speed, doesn't have that home run, elite pull away speed in the open field. I think he's a little bit scheme dependent. I wouldn't want to use him in a power scheme. I think in a zone blocking scheme, he could be really good. I just think he's a rotational guy. I don't see a guy who could ever be a bell cow. I don't see a guy who could ever be your number 1 running back. Whereas I look at guys like Mike Washington, to a lesser degree, Emmett Johnson, I think could be guys who could carve out RB1 roles. I just don't see Jadarian Price being an RB1 at any point in his NFL career. However, he's a guy who probably ends up being a really good rotational piece for a team for a long time.
So it's the part you said about the zone blocking scheme, and that's the reason that I have him that I stuck with him at number 2. He would have been in my top 5 regardless, but it's the reason I stuck with him at number 2 because if everybody here is from the Shanahan tree, they run the zone blocking scheme. So wherever he goes, he let's just say he goes to a zone blocking scheme coach or whatever, or team or whatever, he's gonna get in there and that one cut block and go, he's gonna hit right away. And I look at him the same way I look at Travion Henderson. I was worried about Travion Henderson being a starter. I knew Quinshon Judkins could be the starter, but Travion Henderson, I wasn't sure if he could be a starter. But he ended up, I guess, what's his name? Whatever his name is from New England, got in trouble. He ended up being a starter. So I said, you know what? I'm going to back off of what I thought about Travion Henderson, and I'm going to go with what I think about Jadavion. I'm going to go with what I think about. I'm not going to say that he can't start. I'm going to say, you know what? Most of the league, whether it's an offensive coordinator or whether it's the actual head coach, are zone blocking scheme guys. So he more than likely will get drafted by one of those guys, and he's going to end up starting.
He'll be a good fit somewhere, absolutely. And I think he's a good player. I just don't think he has some of the traits. Like I look at Nicholas Singleton, way more explosive. I look at Emmett Johnson, I think he's a more complete, more physical back. I look at Mike Washington, I just think he has way more upside and way more physical talent. So for me, I like Jadarian Price. I just don't see a lot of elite traits. I just see a lot of BB pluses. I don't see a lot of A's, if that makes sense on the grade card.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, who do you have? I know you talked about Kaytron Allen. So who else? Did you have anybody else that just, maybe 6 or 7?
Just missed the cut. I love it. Let's go to just missed the cut. 2 guys, right. Kaytron Allen just missed the cut. Another guy who I haven't had a lot of chance to talk about is Jonah Coleman out of Washington. This guy is like a sawed-off shotgun. 5'9", 228. He's built like a fire hydrant. Physical, tough, downhill, kind of a throwback, wants to run you over. I like Jonah Coleman, though. And there's a lot of guys who have them in their top 5. There's a lot of analysts who are really high on him. There's some analysts who are a little lower on him that have him more in the 5 to 10 range. Like I said, some guys have him in the actual 3 to 5 range. I think he's a guy kind of similar to, like you said, with Jadarian Price. I think he's a little bit more of a scheme fit. Mm-hmm. But for a team like Detroit, I think a team like Detroit that wants to just punch you in the face, Jonah Coleman kind of fits like that kind of guy. Maybe more of a rotational guy, maybe a goal line guy, a short yardage guy who kind of carves out a role. But I think he'll carve out that role and just be a tough runner for somebody next season.
Yeah, I can agree with that. The one guy I have now, this is more of a third down. This is more of a third down back. This is probably a little bit more RJ Harvey, like we talked about last year. Desmond Claiborne out of Wake Forest. This is a guy, he's a quick hitter. He's not going to, he can't, well, as of right now, he looks like he can't handle a full 20 to 25 carry a night back. But this is a guy that you could give, 10, have about 10 to 15 plays, especially on third down. And he's going to, he's just a quick hitter. He's just going to quick hit, get you your first down, get out of the game, maybe return a kick or a punt. I don't know. But this is a guy that can come in and change the complexion of, if you have Derrick Henry, well, here's a little bit of Desmond Claiborne. Here's a little bit more speed with Desmond Claiborne. I'm just using that as an example. Here's a little bit of Desmond Claiborne to throw you off and put somebody out there that could catch the ball and take it out.
Claiborne, definitely a guy that's a little under the radar, but like you said, shifty, quick, good acceleration, a third down back. I like that. That's a really good role that I think he could carve out. I'll give you a couple kind of sleepers real quick. Jaden Ott out of Oklahoma. I think people are sleeping on him because he had a down year for the Sooners. Go back and watch his tape at Cal. This guy was awesome. I don't know what went wrong at Oklahoma. I don't know if it was a scheme fit. I don't know if maybe he was dealing with some injuries. I don't know what happened at Oklahoma. I thought he was going to be a star for the Sooners and kind of have a breakout national campaign, so to speak, this year, playing for a bigger program like Oklahoma, playing in the SEC. But man, his tape at Cal the last couple of years, he was such a good player. I'm banking on him being undervalued in this class. I think, like I said, Alex, I don't know if this is a great running back class. It sounds like you're a little more down on it than I am, but I
think with the running back, with the fall off of the running back, in a sense, I think, when you get to second through fifth, I guess maybe third through fifth, I think is when you're going to start to see a run on some of these guys, especially Jadarian Price, Mike Washington, Emmett Johnson, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, whichever one you want to pick. I think Nick Singleton, and I like your pick of Nick Singleton. It's just that he's hurt, and drafting a hurt running back just doesn't seem like what the NFL does, even though even though from what his resume has shown us in college, he's been good versus the guys that have been healthy and consistent.
Is he a guy that probably slides in the draft because of last year's tape and because of the medical? Probably. But like I said, if you go back and you look at him when he was at his best, he looked like a first-round pick. And so someone, I think, is going to bank on that and look at it and say, look, it's the fourth round. He's still sitting here. We didn't expect him to be here. Someone's going to take a flyer in this guy and probably end up with a really good player if, of course, he can stay healthy. But at that point, it's low risk, high reward for a guy like him. I think another quick name I'll throw out, Seth McGowan out of Kentucky, 6'1", 215. He's getting a lot of pre-draft hype right now. He's got some off-the-field concerns that could probably, it sounds like, might drag his stock down a little bit. But as far as the football player, pretty good under-the-radar guy coming out of the SEC. Le'Veon Moss out of Texas A&M, another guy that I like, an intriguing prospect, probably goes later, could have some nice value. We talked about Kalen Black out of Indiana during the Senior Bowl. I thought he was really impressive at the Senior Bowl. I think he's a guy to watch in this draft. So a lot of decent names here, not a lot of superstars, not a lot of RB1s, so to speak, but I think there's a lot of guys that are going to carve out roles in the NFL.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch and see when the NFL draft comes up.
All right, guys, that is going to do it for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed it, PGF Nation. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't already, go subscribe to the free newsletter, pintglassfootball.com. Sign up. I've got my mock draft 2.0 is going to be dropping soon. It's going to be exclusive on the newsletter, so make sure you're signed up, guys. But once again, I'm Brad Fowler. He's Alex Higdon. This is Pint Glass Football, and we'll catch you next time.